So let's go ahead and hit on some of the best MacBooks that you should buy in 2022. Now, all these MacBooks will be linked down in the description. If you want to just fast forward, you can see the ones I would recommend. But here's the thing. I truly don't think that any Intel MacBooks are really worth it in 2022. The only reason I would recommend buying an Intel MacBook is if you want to actually utilize full Windows Boot Camp and maybe being able to change a few things with your, MacBook internally. Other than that, I would just recommend buying some of the new M1 MacBooks and compare the M1s to the Intels. You are getting a massive, upgrade in so many different areas. It's not even funny. So that's pretty much the first thing I'd recommend thinking and kind of putting in your head. So all these MacBooks I'm recommending are all the M1s. I would not recommend buying any of the Intels anymore unless you want to get those Windows boot camps and all those things that I mentioned before. Now, first off, I just want to hit on the best MacBooks you can buy. So not regarding money, not regarding, best value per dollar or anything like that. If you have all the money in the world, getting the new 16-inch or the new 14-inch MacBooks, the M1 Max and M1 Pro models, are the best ways to go in 2022. Until there's a successor to these MacBooks, these are going to be the best MacBooks you can buy. And I actually ended up repurchasing another 16-inch MacBook because these things are so crazy. Now, in my opinion, you guys already know about the speed improvements and just the different things like that. The SD card being brought in is another amazing feature. We got Magsafe back. The displays now have 120 Hz ProMotion on them, and these are great feeling, great looking MacBooks. However, they are pretty heavy and they are pretty thick, even for the 14-inch MacBook. So if you want a little bit more portability, then you may want to wait until I recommend the next MacBook. But this specific MacBook, if you don't care about the size, if you don't care about anything, you just want the best MacBooks you can get, it doesn't really get too much better than this. The performance is top tier, and as long as, if you're not planning on getting an, M1 Pro Mac iMac or M1 Pro Mac Pro, and you're always going to stick with a MacBook, these things are future-proofed like crazy. The only thing I could even see Apple doing anytime soon is pretty much removing the notch. But even the notch is not a big deal to even someone like me. So I'll tell you, if you want to pick up the best MacBook you can find, you can't really get much better than a 16-inch or 14-inch M1 Pro or M1 Max MacBook. So those are the first group of MacBooks I'd recommend. Now I have another set, the best price and the most portable. The M1 MacBook Air, in my opinion, is the best starting point of any MacBook I've ever seen. And for the amount of performance, for the amount of stability, and just for the amount of power that you are getting from an M1 MacBook Air for that price tag, it really doesn't get that much better than this one. I'm going to be completely honest. When I purchased my MacBook Air, my M1 MacBook Air, I was shocked to see how great performing this MacBook was at that price tag. And my favorite thing about this MacBook Air is the fact that it actually comes in that rose gold or pink color, whatever it is. I love that color so much. I wish the MacBook Pros had it, but this specific MacBook, for the price tag, $899 for the starting value, that is really hard to beat. I will tell you, that is a crazy good value for this MacBook for sure. And another thing I've been seeing is that for the M1 MacBook Air, they are available pretty much everywhere. So if you walk into the Apple Store or Best Buy, you can go and pick one up today. As of right now, the 16 and 14-inch MacBooks, they are back ordered like crazy. If I ordered one today, it would not come here for like a month from now, and you can't walk into the Apple Store and buy it. So that's another big thing to keep in mind. When it comes to these MacBooks, I will tell you, great performance, tremendous build quality. Yes, it has pretty much the same design as the other MacBook Airs from the last couple of years, but it's still a very good MacBook. And my only concern, my only issue with this MacBook and the M1 MacBook Pro is pretty much the lack of, having multiple displays. With the, 16-inch or 14-inch MacBook, you can dock it up to 2 displays if you want to, which is really awesome. With the M1 MacBook Air, you can only dock it up to 1 display, which is really unfortunate, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. So that's pretty much the best price and the best portability. Now, I do have a great runner-up. This is not even like a bad MacBook. It's my personal MacBook I use every day, the M1 MacBook Pro. This is another MacBook that Apple made last year, or 2 years ago at this point technically, and this is another solid device that Apple made, and I'm so happy to see how great this MacBook has held up. I've owned this for about, 10 months, something like that, and this has been a very solid machine as well. I have the 16 gig of RAM option, and all these M1 MacBook Pros are very, very fast for sure. I edit tons of videos on this thing, I do tons of intensive stuff all day, and if you're in the same ballpark as me, you cannot go wrong with an M1 MacBook Pro. This is still a very solid MacBook for sure. It's a little bit more expensive than that standard M1 MacBook Air, but that's not a bad thing. These M1 MacBook Pros do have, a better cooling system within them, and and they are technically a little bit faster than the M1 MacBook Air, but I do think the best thing about these MacBooks now is that you can actually buy them in the used market because they have depreciated a little bit in the battery life department. So I think that's another really awesome thing that these MacBooks have going for them. So ultimately, those are some of my favorite MacBooks and some of the best MacBooks you can buy in 2022. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this. If you have, an Intel MacBook that you'd recommend, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.